upgraded in any way. Odyssey was holding her right shoulder.
After years of waiting, the Indiana Fever finally won a playoff game. However, the WNBA should be the one to turn what ought to have been unadulterated happiness into yet another disaster. Unbelievably, the story shifted from headlines about Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston's valiant actions or Lexi Hall's game-winning steal to one concerning Sophie Cunningham and a security officer employed by the league. Sophie wasn't racing onto the court or causing trouble because she was wearing a heavy leg brace and wasn't even close to being game-ready. As though Sophie had just hurried to the floor in the middle of a fight, a security guard chose to act like sheriff and yell at her. We'll analyze this occurrence in this video and show what Sophie said that made others take notice. But first, is Sophie being singled out in your opinion? Tell us in the comments section below.
You're like that? Yeah, Chloe, she's like that. She's like that. She ain't moving. Oh, and then she puts her hands on the hip. Let me talk to your manager. Oh, shit. All right, Sophie, say no more. Say no more. Now, when your teammate gets injured, you're allowed to hop on the court and just to see if your teammate's doing good. So, injured, healthy. So, Chloe, Sophie, they had every right to be on the court over here.
This is the query that everyone is currently posing. Was this only an ignorant outburst from a single overly eager rent-a-cop? Or did they target specific players who didn't fit their preferred narrative as part of a wider, more problematic pattern already observed in the WNBA? Given the past, it's difficult to deny that Sophie was singled out on purpose. Her composed yet assertive response demonstrated that she wasn't going to be intimidated by a glorified hall monitor. The atmosphere ought to have been one of joy. The Fever had pulled off a thrilling playoff victory despite losing Caitlin Clark in half of their rotation, which also included Aari McDonald, Sydney Coulson, Chloe BBY, Dyrus Dantas, and Sophie herself. The audience was standing up. Everyone should have been enjoying the postseason excitement as the squad was pumped. Instead, we saw the bizarre picture of Sophie standing in her brace at mid-court before league security came charging at her. No altercation, no infraction, and no justification for conflict. But all of a sudden, she was viewed as a threat.
Why in the F is that security guard all up on Sophie Cunningham? And look, I think there is a reason she got up in Sophie's face, and I don't think there was any need to sort of bow up to Sophie like that. I don't think, and to Sophie's credit, she did not back down at.
Consider the optics in this situation. A security guy who appeared intent on intensifying what should have been nothing was leaning on Sophie Cunningham, who was obviously hurt and unable to run if she so desired. It was flawlessly captured by the camera. Sophie's face shifts from perplexed to irritated to the recognizable Cunningham scowl that fans are all too familiar with. That is the expression of someone who is asking, "Really, you're doing this at the moment?" She had every right to give it, to be honest. Almost immediately, the incident went viral on social media. In a matter of minutes, videos of Sophie's confrontation were widely circulated, and the response was one of indignation. Fans were able to observe firsthand how unnecessary the entire situation was, not because Sophie overreacted. Enforcement wasn't involved. It was harassment. Additionally, it directly contributes to the annoying story that Sophie has been following throughout her career. She is consistently portrayed as the antagonist.
Odyssey Sims goes down hard, and Sophie Cunningham, Caitlin Clark, Chloe Bibby are waiting for her at half court, and the cop tries to get Sophie Cunningham to move. Sophie Cunningham was like, "You're not gonna get me to move. I'm waiting for Odyssey." And you could see during the review, look at Sophie Cunningham clapping, not moving, waiting for her teammate. That's the Fever for you.
Why? Due to Sophie's noncompliance with the WNBA party line. She speaks up. She questions narratives. She is self-assured, unrepentant, and won't back down just because others want her to. And as a result, she has received different treatment from media outlets, rival supporters, and now it seems, the league's own employees. This is the same Sophie Cunningham who frequently makes headlines on Twitter, has one of the loudest fan bases in women's basketball, and whose videos receive a lot of clicks. She is a good businesswoman. The WNBA, meanwhile, seemed determined to make her a problem rather than accept her. YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter were inundated with comments. Others simply stated, "Sophie gets treated this way because she doesn't match the league's preferred image." Others drew attention to the discriminatory racial and cultural norms at work. The story would have been reversed if Sophie had been replaced by Angel Reese or Paige Bueckers. Examine their leadership and passion. But all of a sudden, Sophie Cunningham, wearing a leg brace, is the issue. The league was informed by the fans that they weren't buying it. Within hours, hashtags like Free Sophie and WNBA Exposed became popular.
Folks, I didn't realize how much fun I would have watching these people break down. It's a meltdown. It's a meltdown on Twitter today. It's embarrassing to a certain extent. Not for me, for them. And then we got the Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever getting booed as you're getting off the court.
The worst part is still to come. Sophie didn't even get more heated. She refused to back down. She didn't back down, but she also didn't blow up. She simply glared, stood her ground, and resisted being harassed. To put it another way, she was more professional than the security man who started the altercation. And for that reason, the video became viral. She didn't start the drama. The league was the source of the drama. Let's make some connections now. Similar things have happened before. Recall the moment when security had to intervene because the referees were uneasy with Dane Carrington. The league moved quickly to protect Carrington. Everyone characterized it as unfair treatment, and the Players Association came together in support of her. So, why was there no sound on the radio when Sophie experienced the same thing? Why is the league leadership remaining silent when only fans are pointing out the unfairness?
This out right here. Yeah, you see this guy right here? Right in this Gentero area? You see this guy? The ref asked this dude to step out here. All right? Now, Cheryl Swoops wants this referee fired. She wants him fired. Look, he felt something. He felt something was amiss. Of course, Cheryl Swoops is defending Dejanay Carrington.
This goes beyond a single aggressive police officer. It concerns the persistent issue of players that don't fit the model in the WNBA. Since her first season, Caitlin Clark has had to deal with this reality, being targeted, ridiculed, pushed, and hacked on the court while the league ignores it and the referees ignore it. For years, Sophie has been portrayed as the antagonist. When you combine the two plots, an unsettling pattern becomes apparent. The WNBA has no idea how to deal with celebrities that don't match their ideal storyline. They isolate them rather than accept them. Ironically, Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham are both the kind of athletes the league ought to honor. They increase engagement, are marketable, and are well-liked. Fans still talk about Sophie, even when she's hurt. She is the greatest attraction in the history of women's basketball, Clark. However, the WNBA allows referees and officials to abuse them rather than shielding them. Fans become frustrated with the league overall as well as with the current situation when they witness it.
Sophie Cunningham, because she's white, she's beautiful, all these things, right? Let's keep it real. Let's keep it 100, as they say. Sophie Cunningham is the most beautiful woman in this league. All right, she's the hottest woman in this league, and they're mad they can't be her.
The consequences were instantaneous. Fans flooded comment sections within hours, attacking the WNBA for making Sophie look foolish during what ought to have been a happy occasion. People brought up the league's previous attempt to look into fans who were jeering at Angel Reese or its dismissal of egregious taunts directed at Caitlin Clark as normal. Here, the same pattern is evident. Selective protection, selective outrage, and selective enforcement. Additionally, the league's reputation suffers each time it occurs. To be clear, This is poor business, not just lousy optics. The WNBA consistently states that they seek expansion, recognition, and popular acceptance. But when your greatest moments are overshadowed by widely shared videos of your athletes being bullied by your own employees, you can't do any of that. Their favorite celebrities should not be marginalized or silenced. They want basketball to be played, appreciated, and celebrated.
Completely underestimated the feelings that I would have watching all of the Indiana Fever haters crash out. All of the Caitlin Clark haters, all of the Sophie Cunningham haters, anything to do with the Indiana Fever, the people that are just so quick to hop on Twitter and say something negative, to hop on media and say something negative, to take credit away. I underestimated how good it feels watching these people crumble.
The tale really takes off from here, because fans became more interested in Sophie's confrontation the more they discussed it. They started assembling the larger picture. The persistent mistreatment, the persistent double standards, and the persistent inability to safeguard players like Sophie and Clark. All of a sudden, this was more than simply a viral video. It turned into a case study of all the issues with the WNBA's priorities, officiating, and leadership. At this point, the situation abruptly shifts from aggravating to blatantly revealing. Sophie Cunningham defies the WNBA's meticulously constructed storylines by being frank, angry, and more than simply another player in sweatpants on the sidelines. She doesn't play the part of the happy mascot they would like. She doesn't soften her edges for media comfort, and she doesn't conform to league-approved storylines. She isn't Caitlin Clark's WNBA replacement, Paige Beckers. She is not the league's go-to controversy machine, Angel Reese. They can't quite put Sophie in a box. She has been a target for years because of that.
Sophie, she got the contraption on. She looks great in a ball cap. Let's just keep it real. We're keeping it 100 here, as the kids say. And here we go. Right here, she's at mid-court. And then Paula Blart, Mall Cop, what are you doing? Well, I mean, what you doing? She got a leg brace on, for crying out loud. You come out here trying to be Brody and trying to do something, knowing damn good well. Look at this police officer sauntering up.
This is where the irony lies. Her popularity stems from her stubbornness and refusal to compromise with the league's ideal image. She is adored by many due to her authenticity. She is unadulterated. She isn't afraid to speak what everyone else is afraid to say. That is exactly the kind of enthusiasm that a league in dire need of mainstream recognition ought to be honoring. However, the WNBA appears intent on downplaying her influence rather than welcoming her as an attraction. Examine the advertising. How often have you seen Sophie in the spotlight during WNBA promotions? Almost none. Despite this, her name is continually trending, her highlights receive a lot of clicks, and her interviews are replayed more frequently than those of athletes the league promotes twice as much. Observe the difference when disputes erupt. Sophie is labeled the villain if she gets into a fight. But if Angel Reese does the same thing, it's referred to as swagger and passion all of a sudden. Fans are aware of it and are not naive. It is clear that there is bias. And that hypocrisy hit a new low when a police officer yelled at Sophie for having the audacity to show concern for her teammates. Fans are already muttering that the painful solution was the only sensible one. The person being picked out is Sophie Cunningham,